Welcome back. It's actually the same day as another video, but it is what it is. Um, I tried the last one scripted. I wrote a blog and I'm a writer as well, so I thought I would try kind of reading off the blog as the script for the YouTube video, and I think it went fairly well, but I do much better if I'm just kind of off the cuff. And I can do a single take, and it's just more me. So I have a friend who had seen my video on third culture kids, and then she really wanted to hear me speak more to that. But at the same time, we were talking about motherhood in today's world and how that experience has been quite curtailed by the environment that we live in. Single motherhood is soared, um, even with two parents and a single household. You often deal with very many financial struggles, and it's just difficult out there for parents. And I think a lot of people don't recognize the fact that without another generation, we are going to actually suffer economically. But there's a lot of issues coming into play as far as motherhood is concerned. So let me just start with this. I'm 36, and this is my first child. And I know that a lot of mothers these days are starting out a lot older than they used to. Um, the average age of a first time mother is now somewhere in her mid 30s. That's very much up from what it used to be. My mother had me when she was 21. So I was born in 1985. So things have changed a lot. Now, you can say a lot of mothers have been unwise. They've had children at young ages. They've had children with partners that were unreliable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I really don't think that applies to me. I mean, I clearly waited a very long time. I did as much as I could to ensure that I was in a stable place, but also at some point you have to say, you know what? If I want children, I'm just going to have them. And I've heard people say for many years, well, there's never a right time to have children. You just have to have them. You're never ready. And it always upset me when people said that because they clearly didn't understand where I was coming from and where a lot of us are coming from. A lot of us that have waited to have children have done so because we weren't in a stable relationship or we simply could not afford to feed our children. It has nothing to do with the fact that I was or was not ready for children. What it had to do with was my responsibility as a parent, as a future parent, to ensure that my child wouldn't starve, to ensure my child would have a roof over his head, that we wouldn't be living in a tent or a car like so many are right now. And that's about as much as I can do. And now I'm faced with the fact that I have a full time job. And I've been very fortunate because I've gotten 12 weeks of maternity leave. And that's not common. And it's certainly not mandated across the United States. I had a Canadian friend when I was about 6 months pregnant. She asked if I was going to take the whole year of maternity leave. And I said, huh? Huh? There's so many tangents I could go on. Like, we're all so afraid of socialism and communism in this country, but why? I'm not a communist, I'm not a socialist, but at the same time, why are we so afraid of it? Is it something that's been ingrained in us for some other reason? I mean, I have to admit, I look at Canada and their maternity leave policy looks really awesome. I look at Europe and the fact that they don't have to say, no, no, send the ambulance back. I can't afford it. I should just rather die. What is wrong with this country? We're the richest country in the world. But the majority of its citizens are completely living in poverty and suffering huge medical bills. So I have a good job, but I still pay an inordinate amount in insurance costs every month. And to have a child, it's still incredibly expensive. Not as expensive as it would have been, but still not tenable. So if we're going to raise another generation of workers to support the system economically, we're going to have to actually make it inexpensive. And if we want to not deal with another generation of serious mental health issues, then we might actually need to make sure that the parents can be involved in the children's lives, or that someone healthy can be, because unfortunately, a lot of our generation is completely compromised as far as mental health is concerned. So there's a lot I could say in a lot of different directions. It's very difficult for me to maintain a single topic because everything I talk about branches into something else. And it's hard to stay focused because everything is affected by everything else. Everyone is affected by everyone else. The butterfly effect in a grandiose spectrum, a grand scheme. I mean, it's huge. But as a mother, a new mother, I was very fortunate to get my 12 weeks. I have to go back in January, and I'm looking at that day and dreading it. Not because I'm afraid of work, not because my job is terrible, because I'm recognizing that when I go back to work, I will then spend 10 hours a day away from my child. The 10 hours that he's awake, I will be spending working. The time that I'll be with him, he'll be asleep. The majority of the time that I will spend with my child for the next however many years that I work while he's a child, the majority of the time I'm going to spend with him, he's going to be sleeping. I find myself looking at the prospect and refusing to accept that. I don't know what I was thinking. I think I thought that everybody else has had to do it. I'll do it too. But I'm looking at it now and I'm saying, but why? When I have waited this many years and been this careful about when and where and with whom I had a child, why would I then abandon that child? Now, to be fair, I'm not abandoning the child. The child would be with his grandmother, he would be with family, he would be in absolutely wonderful hands. But I wouldn't be able to be there. There are a lot of firsts that I'll miss. There are a lot of seconds and thirds and fourths and fifths that I'll miss. I'll miss a huge portion of his life. Because 10 hours a day adds up. But in this country, at this point in time, we're in a situation where a mother cannot afford to stay home with her child. You need two incomes just to survive. We're not talking about two incomes in order to have a house and three cars and 15 acres and put the kids in soccer and ballet and everything else. We're talking about two incomes just to pay rent in a tiny apartment and buy groceries and diapers. That's ridiculous. We have essentially raised entire generations without parents or being parented by a system, by the schools, by the daycares, by grandparents. Grandparents is the least of my worries. But I find myself looking at this reality and saying, actually, why was I okay with that? Just because everybody else has had to do it, why should I have to do it? Maybe there's a way around it. There has to be a way around it. Why didn't I think of this sooner? And so I've kicked into high gear. I started this before he was born, but I couldn't get any traction because I was very miserably pregnant and doing my best to just get out of bed. Um, but now I'm here and I say, what can I do? What can I start? So I'm starting several different projects, and this is one of them. I want to stay home with my child, and I no longer feel like that's being selfish or entitled. I feel like that's being smart for his well being, for mine, for our family, for the future of this generation. I think it's important for me to be there. So I'm doing everything I can to fast track the process. And one of those things is definitely couponing. I never thought I would say this, but it's true. If you do it well and you do it right, if you care enough to try, you can make it. And I'm going to. There's a reason that a bunch of kids are out there couponing because they've recognized that this is like one of the only non inflated forms of payment. It's insane. I could reduce overhead. I can increase income streams as much as I can. We've learned that trading our time for money is not, in fact, any kind of a way to survive. It's not even just not the most efficient, it's literally impossible to survive by simply trading your time for money. You don't have enough time. Even if you work 24/7, you will never have enough time to trade for the amount of money you need just to pay your bills. And you also won't see your children at all. And that's not okay. It's just not. I'm rethinking my priorities, I guess, and how I'm going to achieve those priorities. Because you can't just play the game. I thought I could, but I can't. So, whatever it takes, I'm going to do it. If there's anybody else out there who's doubting, you can do it too. Just think outside the box.